So, what's going on with the box office with this thing, Odin?
Talking here about Indiana Jones.
Yeah, talking about Indiana Jones. You're the box office guy.
Well, I figured I would pull up the next story in our list of stories to talk about.
This one? There we go.
I like it when Odin does it, because then Odin doesn't get yelled at like I do.
I just did it in a much more subtle way.
Yeah.
Versus all right, we're moving on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a story that's been kind of making waves this week, and that's Sound of Freedom beating Indiana Jones in a box office coup, according to the culture section of Newsweek. What I found interesting most about this story is this is, again, comparing the specifically the actual 4th of July box office numbers as they were being reported in. Sound of Freedom made roughly $14 million on that Tuesday, whereas Indiana Jones made about $11 million. However, the one caveat is the $14 million seems to be including the Pay It Forward program that they have had for Sound of Freedom, which has been really cool to see. Essentially, they've been trying to get 2 million tickets to be given away for free, representing the 2 million kids that are being impacted by human trafficking, by all these terrible events that are talked about in Sound of Freedom. And so they've been able to actually do that to quite a successful amount. And so, you know what? I don't mind them adding that number in, because even if, and I mentioned this in a video I did on my channel, even if you just take I think it was like 11.5 versus 11.4 for that Tuesday, where technically without the Pay It Forward, Dial of Destiny 1. But when you have a film coming from, a distributor like Angel Studios, which is small fish in a very large ocean of studios, that already is abysmal. Like the fact that Dial of Destiny, a Indiana Jones film, a massive $200+ million, probably closer to $300+ million, and glad to hear they filmed this in England, because that means next year we will get the tax report about how much they actually spent on this movie, and it'll be glorious to see just how much money they've lost on it. But the fact that they are losing, or at the very least are getting that close to a massive studio like Disney, is a huge loss for Disney in this battle.
Yeah, and actually we already kind of have an idea of how much was spent, because Valiant Renegade and those guys found that they've already spent at least $300 million, close to roughly, depending on how you figure the difference in exchange. But as we're learning here slowly and surely throughout the last few weeks, these movies are costing a heck of a lot more than what they're reporting. They're just reporting the budgets, we're learning. They're not actually reporting the actual costs. Because we just learned that the last few Marvel movies cost usually around $100 million more than what they're reporting. The Force Awakens, for instance, cost $533 million to make.
Yeah, we finally.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing costs closer to 500 when it's all said and done, once you add in all the reshoots, because that was the problem with The Flash. The Flash had so many reshoots that their $250 million budget had basically been doubled. I was being told by people that it is the most expensive film Warner Brothers ever made. And this is right after they had just made the Justice League a few years ago at what, $350 or whatever the budget was?
Yep. That's insane. $500 million to make a stupid movie. That's
and again, I mean, the initial production that we've had reported, and we know for a fact, for Indy, Tom's 100% right. We aren't really going to know what they spent on this film because it took so long. There was so much interest paid. There's other costs that are going to be actually shown later on in the UK that we'll have access to in the next reporting or disclosure period. So when you start to see what films really cost because of the way the company's house operates in the UK, you can actually just continue to deconstruct exactly how much money these films actually make.
They're not even making pennies at this point. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, we might as well deconstruct things because they're busy deconstructing all our heroes. So let's deconstruct their budgets and their earnings. It's a lot more fun. But I look at something like Sound of Freedom as a film that I thought was incredibly powerful, that I gratefully, gave away tickets to, through the Pay It Forward program and all that. I think most of the people who see the film will probably end up doing that themselves, because it is something I think everybody should see. We don't have enough films like that. And the only thing I cut, you're right about the pacing. There's a point at which you can go to the restroom right after he locates one of the kids at the end of the film. that you can like take like a 5-minute bathroom break right there, and that could have been cut at least that 5-minute break. There was a couple places at the beginning, but what I appreciated about it is that it was very deliberate for the most part in its pacing, absent a few spots like that. And I think that really does, it kept you so engaged emotionally, and that's something that films don't do well anymore. But it kept you very engaged emotionally, whereas Marvel would have taken many opportunities to drop a bunch of useless levity. They would sprinkle that in everywhere, a lot of Marvel humor here and there to take the strength of a moment away, to diffuse it, which I think that pushes the audience away. To be fair.
That's one thing that really spot on there, because I think the tone is really where this film gets really good. Like the tone of this movie is just very solid, because it doesn't go for those moments of, modern day filmmaking. It seems, we're going to be a little bit serious, but then we're going to throw in a bunch of, crazy levity. But with this movie, when it's serious, it stays serious. And there are this very brief moments where it's that kind of levity where even the characters and the actors playing those characters, they'll smile, but that it's in a specific context where they're not laughing for like, oh, that was funny, but more of a, oh yeah, we just got these SOBs. And so it's like, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, clever. I'm feeling that. Exactly.
And I agree with you guys. The tone is spot on throughout the entire movie. And I've seen some pundits, let's say, trying to claim that this is like emotional manipulation. In fact, I'll argue the opposite. This movie holds back.
Big time.
There is so much more this movie could have showed you to manipulate you if it really fucking wanted to. Like, this really rides up to the line of PG-13 of being able to show you what this world is like. It's like, kids, this world is even nastier than this. This world is a hell of a lot worse than this. And the fact that they're just even scraping the surface of this world and showing you this. And if you can even try to sit there and go, oh, this is manipulation or this is Q Anon fantasy bullshit, I say this to you. What is your problem with kids? Because that's all I can think of at this point. There is nothing in this movie, nothing about this movie. If you don't like the movie as a whole, that's fine. I understand. This movie's a lot like Schindler's List. It is not an easy watch. It will get you emotionally involved if you actually have a heart, right? Once you see what this movie's about, once you see the things of the struggles that they all went through, and the fact that you know that this is a true story, and that very little of it, as far as I know, has been dramatized, you will understand what these people were going through and what they did for this story to be told. And I love that Jim comes out at the end and he flat out says, not to spoil anything for anybody, he goes, this is not a story about me. This is not a story about the guy who was there making about Tim Ballard. This is a story about these two kids, a brother and a sister. And if we can just get their story out there, it will make a fucking difference. And they're right. And I apologize for the language, but he is 100% correct. And this is what gets me fired up about this, because these are the kind of movies that Hollywood used to make that would make a difference, that actually got Oscars and got people talking and made changes. Right? This is the kind of thing they've been pretending to do for the last decade, when it's like, no. You actually used to do this, right? Yeah. You used to make a movie like Philadelphia, and then guess what? Millions of billions of people would actually start funding AIDS research. That's the difference Hollywood used to make. Dirty Harry came out, and guess what? They actually started CSI because of that, because, oh God, we might want to actually start tracking down some of these serial killers and not leaving it up to one dude.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry. I get passionate about it, but it's true.
This is a movie for weirdo extremist conspiracists and QAnon supporters, Tom. So,
No, this is a movie for the average person, and they can sit down and as hard as it can be to watch with a kid, I almost think kids should see it. So they can see what the world is really like and to know the things that they have to look out for, because a parent can't watch their kid 24/7.
Look, I'm going to suggest this. It's that any news outlet, anybody who considers themselves as such, and they walk an article in front of the public that plays this down, calls it a conspiracy theory in any way or any of these other things, A, I don't believe they watched the film, and B, they are out of touch with reality, or C, they are so bankrupt and morally corrupt that they are participants. Right.
They don't touch on any of the subject that these idiots are trying to claim this movie does in these reviews. So I don't even know where they're getting this crap from.
Let me take a second. Welcome Alex, our fearless leader.
Hey,
he's decided to pop in.
An adult finally.
Did Kater send you?
Yeah.
No,
No,
but you never did.
I'm traveling right now. This is the fastest I could get to a place that had a good Wi-Fi connection. So I'm here now.
We're having a good show. We're having a good show today, man.
We're having a great
You
show.
guys, you guys talking about that new movie that just came out? Was it called Sound of Freedom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like it's a must see. You have to go watch it because I feel like if you're not supporting this movie, then your morals are questionable.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think I said as much, and I don't usually get judgmental. This is one of the times I'm going to do it because I'm like, you cannot. Kids are where everybody has to draw a line. To be fair.
I had the one caveat where, because I had people on my stream when I was talking about this who said, I just don't feel like I could actually sit through this. Like, I just don't think that I could, go through emotionally through it. And many of them, when I mentioned the pay it forward thing that they're doing for it, I mean, they're like, I'm so happy you told me because now I know there's a way I can support this movie without actually having to go watch it because I just don't think I can. So that's where, like, if that's where you are, that's where I respect it, right? If you think emotionally you wouldn't be able to handle it, I respect it, because when you have these other people though who are calling it QAnon and connecting all this crap, to me that is more of so exposing them, because what this film does is it exposes a lot of uncomfortable truths. And that, I think, is the reason why they don't want people seeing this movie and they want to paint it the way they do. Because as soon as you start going into what this film deals with, it then opens up those other connections of, wait a minute, aren't there a lot of pornographic websites that are also tied in to these same industries? Oh, wait, there are. Oh, wait, that's an uncomfortable conversation. Yep. We can't talk about that because we can't get rid of those things, or we can't delve into those things. And there's so many other, connections, that this thing opens up. And so that's why it's such an important film to support. And even just the Underground Railroad, the service where they go and help these kids, to support them.
Oh, but that's a QAnon conspiracy, Odin. I don't know what
Oh, yeah. Great. It sucks that this one guy who did the interview has, of course, all this stuff around him. But Jordan Peterson did a phenomenal interview. And the first thing he does, the first 30 minutes, it's him asking Tim Ballard, the actual Tim Ballard, all of the questions, saying like, oh, wait a minute, I see a report here from Vice that you are a part of a QAnon conspiracy. Can you explain that? And he goes after, and he lets him say, okay, here's what this was. And he explains every single detail of all of this crap and falsehoods that were thrown his way. It's phenomenal.
That's great. Yeah, I watched the Sean Ryan, I think, podcast. Sean Ryan podcast had the actor on, Jim Caviezel. I can't say his last name. What is it? Caviezel. Jim Caviezel. Yeah,
I just call him Jesus because he is Jesus at this point. I mean,
yeah, I listened to his interview the other day. He's a very, very passionate guy. He's got his heart in the right place, and in all of Hollywood, I think there's maybe a handful of people that actually have like strong morals. So I'm 100% behind this guy. I think any project that he takes part in, that he made sure that it made sure that it was clean for him to do. I think he's a super talented actor. So and then is that documentary that Mel Gibson's doing, is that connected to this, or is it completely separate? Do you guys know?
I didn't know he was.
I'm not sure, but he's thanked in this movie, and I know he's had a little bit of to do behind the scenes with it. So yeah,
I've heard that
there may be a connection.
Yeah,
I heard that they're doing a documentary, and Mel Gibson's kind of like spearheading it. It's the same subject matter as this movie, but it's like
Angel
it's a documentary style. It's not fiction or anything.
So Tim Ballard mentioned it in the interview with Jordan Peterson. He says that they are going to cover the same event in this movie where they take down all of these, pedos on an island, essentially. And he says that actually was only part of the story. There were actually 2 or 3 other separate islands that this was simultaneously happening on. So the documentary is going to actually go into the entire operation, and it's Angel Studios that's going to be the primary funder behind it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mel Gibson, similar to this movie, I think he sat down with the filmmaker and like gave him some tips, like basically just gave him like a once over of, oh, you should do this and you should do that. I wouldn't be surprised if he does something similar.
Just real quick, I want.
He's like the number one thanked in the thanks at the end.
I want to pull this up. Andy Masterson. I've been donating to Operation Underground Railroad for several years now. Yeah, I didn't know this was a thing. So
I didn't until recently either. Yeah,
and I just pulled up the link. I think everybody should go check that out.
Well, and it's crazy because I haven't got to listen to a lot of interviews with the real Tim Ballard. So, yeah, and do donate if you can to this.
Yeah, for sure.
recommend it highly because like just listening to some of his stories, and it's like you realize that he only got funding from the government from between 2018 and 2020 to do this stuff. The rest of the time he was doing it himself.
Yeah.
You know, and they estimate they have saved over 150 kids.
Oh yeah.
They have taken down over a dozen pedophile rings, give or take. Yeah. And he was even talking about like these baby farms and other things that are going on and stuff like that they crack down on. And it's just like,
Disgusting
how is the government's
stuff.
even allowing this shit to, but again, that goes with the same point of why did Disney sit on a movie for 5 years? Well, let me just throw a few guesses out there. Only elites can afford to buy people.
True.
And who's most elite in America?
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
They're on Threads. That's where they are.
They're on Threads.
Really wild, right? Yeah, on Threads.
They gotta delete their Instagram now.
Oh, boy, this topic went really deep today, guys.
It's a deep movie, and it's not something we normally cover. And again, it's
No.
not like a movie I would go to see for any kind of entertainment value, obviously.
But you know, this kind of stuff has been like, it's just been right at the undercurrent, the surface of a lot of stuff that we do. I mean, look at the Nick Merckx thing on Call of Duty a few weeks ago.
Yep.
They tried to cancel him because he said leave the kids alone.
Well, and that's the thing.
And it's wild. What is going on with society when it's so fucking controversial that we want to protect our children? It's wild.
And I think that's going to be the powder keg. But and I brought up Dirty Harry earlier, and I throw in Death Wish into this mix for a reason, because you go back to the late 60s, early 70s, we were at a time of turmoil where you had a lot of laws being put in place or taken down so that criminals could just basically run rampant. Right. So movies like Death Wish and Dirty Harry became popular despite them getting the same type of reviews as this movie was getting from the media.
That's wild.
The public was like, F you, we're tired of this shit. And they went to these movies in droves. I think this movie is going to be that powder keg. Because guess what? This has all been boiling up to has been what? Everybody's fine with who you want to be with and who you want to marry, but leave the damn kids alone.
Right.
This is a movie that's exactly about that.
They finally found the line, right?
I think that I may be wrong, but this could be one of those movies that sets this thing in motion for a swing of the pendulum a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a fantastic analogy too. Not even an analogy, but like a comparison between like Dirty Harry and Death Wish and those types of movies back in the 70s. That's a fantastic job, Tom. Great one.
Yeah, I mean, it was because of Dirty Harry that, like I said, they have CSI now because of the Zodiac killer and things of that time at that time that movie's based on. Death Wish was the same thing. That was loosely based on an actual guy who shot, was shooting people on subways and stuff that was, stopping crimes and stuff. So like there's precedent for this. Like I'm not just bringing it in because, those are great movies. Yeah, they're great movies, but there's a reason they, resonate through history. And I think this movie has that opportunity to do so as well and shine a light on this very horrible thing that's happening right under our own noses.
And you're right, Tom. Sometimes it takes a movie like this to spark a movement, to spark some kind of societal shift, because we all watch movies, we all watch TV shows, and sometimes you got to get that message from the right person in the right format to get it to sink in. So.
And that's why for all of us.
Movies.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know, Odin, you've got a young one yourself. I've got 3 boys. I'm a father. So these movies, like, I understand completely if somebody's like, I don't know if I can handle watching this movie. I totally get that. Like, yeah, it's going to be a tough one to get through, especially if you're a parent. But, like, this information that these movies present, in an entertainment type of way, it's still really important information and really important awareness for parents. To know what the world's really like out there and to know that these things are real. Like I live in Las Vegas and I got 3 kids. Like it's not the safest city in the world for kids. I know that there was some drama a couple of years back with the guy who played Borat. I think he was doing something and he went to a casino and was trying to play a prank and was like, "Oh, do you have any young boys to send to my, thing to my hotel room?" And like the concierge at the freaking casino was like, "Yes, sir, we can do that for you." And he was like, wow. Wait a minute, that was a joke. And they're like, "Oh, no, we can do that for you if you want." Like there's shady things happening all over the place. And I think the more awareness to the situation that parents have, the better.
Alex, now I have to go to work tonight and start doing a close watch on the concierge. So thanks, man.
You guys didn't hear about that? That was a big thing.
No, I did not.
Yeah,
I think it'll be coming back up.
He went there trying to film like a joke Borat skit about like asking for like weird things to come to his room, and he got some answers he wasn't expecting.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to call an audible. I think we need to lighten things up a little bit because I'm gonna go kill myself here pretty soon if I don't.
No, it's understandable. It's a.
I'm not gonna do that culture. I really not. I shouldn't have said that.
Well, the one thing I will say is that we especially us, being able to kind of view the culture and the culture wars is we can step back. And I think that now is when people start to expose themselves, and we've seen it, right? Anyone in the media who's going after this movie specifically using cultural political points, that to me says, okay, I know exactly now who I should never trust, who I should probably be calling investigations on, because again, if you're going after this movie critically, that's
especially if you supported cuties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anyone who said good things about cuties but is going after this one for Q Anon crap, like just nonsense. Yeah, at that point it's like FBI or whoever we can actually trust to look into this person.
Calling out those article authors that do
Sheriff's
that.
departments are safer.
Maybe we should alert them to Tim Ballard.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and comment below on your favorite video as well. That goes a long way with helping us boost our channel and get out there in front of more people. And it lets YouTube know that we're doing something right. And if you want to catch us live, we go live 2 times a week, once on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time and on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So join us there in the chat. We will see you on the live stream. Stay salty.